up, guys? Welcome to week number 2 of my Goggins force programming. So on this week here, hip is still a bit inflamed. We decided to kind of change our approach from last week. So rather than trying to work up to just the top sets and then hitting some pause squats, which none of that actually happened, but that was the original plan. The goal here was to kind of warm up using a box squat. That way I could sit back into the hips, kind of get everything firing equally. But it just didn't really feel good. I could tell just on the last set, the last rep of that first, not even first working set, that it just was getting that same kind of quivery feeling in through the left glute. After some furious Googling that I'm going to have confirmed by my chiropractor, I think I may actually have bursitis or some kind of inflammation in through the high hamstring on the left, and then possibly like the inside of the right hip, which would explain some of the symptoms that I'm having. So what I ended up doing was just throwing on the briefs, since just a little bit of compression and support that I get from them is enough to keep those symptoms at bay and allow me to still train. So what you're seeing here is all the prescribed weights that I was supposed to hit raw, but I just threw on my briefs, which are relatively loose fitting, and get them on myself. I don't feel like I get a ton of pop out of them out of the bottom, but it's just enough support to take some of the pressure off the hip. So worked it up to 285 for 2 triples on the box, and then dropped it into just a free squat with 225 here for the set of 5. As you can see, I'm not having trouble hitting depth or anything with the briefs on, even with this lightweight. So like I said, they're not too terribly supportive, but it's just enough that it allows me to still train this movement. Once I go see my chiropractor next week, I'll have a little bit better idea of how we're going to address everything in the training, and then kind of like prehab side of things as well. But these did help alleviate much of the weight shift issue, or not even really a drastic weight shift, but mostly just that feeling of imbalance I have in through that left high hamstring area. So ended up taking 340 for a double, or 345, 385 as a final warm-up, and then 4 total singles here at 425. One of them didn't record, but these are all 3 of the ones that I do have to show. As you can see, the first one felt a little bit off, but as I continued through these working sets, things did start to speed up a little bit, and nothing was painful. So I'm just kind of letting that be my guide as I'm going through the sets. If I have any noticeable shifting or discomfort, then I'm going to shut the sets down and not aggravate anything. But if I end up having to just keep training my squat and the briefs, and then I can deadlift raw, I'm also okay with that. So this is the last single here at 425. I think this one actually ended up moving the best out of all 4, just because I kind of acclimated to the weight and was a little bit more aggressive with it. So squat groove is still moving pretty well. The rest of my body is staying in position really well, and I attribute a lot of that to being able to overload everything using the briefs towards the last part of last year. So on the light bench day, which actually ended up happening on the same day as the deadlift, we had another big snowstorm here in town, so I didn't end up doing this on Wednesday like scheduled. Rather, I hit all of my main deadlift work and the rack pulls and shrugs, and then just threw the 5x5 in on my Thursday workout. So one of the big things that Steve had mentioned that I work on for my bench is actually practicing my head down rather than lifting it up off the bench, which feels really foreign to me. But one of the things that he noticed from one of the side view shots is that when I lift my head, I tend to lower my chest, so I'm adding range of motion to my press, but also I start drifting my body down towards the front of the bench. So I'm almost losing that tightness in through the legs as well, and it's killing my arch, adding range of motion, and just kind of overall loosening up my setup. So this feels really foreign to me, since I've been a heads off the bench bencher for a couple years now. But I can definitely see what he's talking about as far as that stability in the bottom position. Keeping my head down allows me to keep the rib cage up And while it doesn't feel like I'm getting as much leg drive, I think a lot of that, this is a comparison set, a lot of that is because I'm not feeling that shift in weight down the bench and then shift back. So it's not like an explosive 0 to 100 type of leg drive. It's more consistent throughout the eccentric and the concentric part of the lift. So this was the last set. This was probably the cleanest. You can see that I don't have that shifting or that loosening of the legs. So I'll be playing around with this over the next couple of weeks, just trying to get acclimated to a new technique of pressing. But I do definitely see what Steve is talking about as far as being able to create more stability by keeping my head down on the bench. So that will be something that I'm practicing for the next few weeks. Over on the deadlifts, the main thing that he suggested from last week was that I try not to leave my head quite so neutral all the way throughout the pull. Head position at the bottom was fine, but I need to start firing my eyes up and my head back to try and get the shoulders involved in the lockout as well. And you can see here these reps are a lot faster and smoother than last week. So that's another beneficial cue that I'll be working on throughout this session and in the weeks to come. It was only slated for 2 sets of 5 this week with 455. These all felt pretty good. You can see on the last few reps of the set, I ended up intentionally slowing down the lockout. I was getting a little bit of that pulling feeling in through the left glute, and it was something that if I try and go explosively through and fire the hips through really fast, I feel it more. So I just tried to keep a consistent and moderate pace throughout the rep. And as long as I focused on rooting into the floor and keeping my weight evenly distributed throughout the balls of the feet and the heels, and then just kind of slowly pushing the hips through, then I actually was able to alleviate some of those symptoms that I was having in through the left hamstring area. So still working on that. What's really funny is that range of motion is where I feel it if I'm pulling off of the ground, but for some reason doing the high rack pulls, I actually have no symptoms at all, no discomfort, and I can feel my glutes firing through to lock out really well, and there's none of the same symptoms that I have if I'm pulling from the floor, or most predominantly when I'm squatting. So that's something that kind of leads me to believe that it may be more inflammation based rather than an actual direct injury to any kind of tissue. Just because I don't have any decrease in strength in that top end, I just have that strange pulling sensation sometimes intermittently on some sets and some reps on some of the lifts. So I'm going to talk to my doctor and see if I can get that confirmed so I can put together a treatment plan for that. But as it stands, none of those symptoms are manifesting itself during my deadlift training. So brings us to the heavy bench session for the week. On this day, I was scheduled for 3 sets of 6 to 8 with 320 touch and go on my main bench. Here's my final warm up with 275. This was kind of the first set where I had to really focus on figuring out where I'm going with the bar on the descent, since I'm not able to bring my head up off the bench. And so the first rep or two out of this and also the first work set are just a little bit sketchy, just because I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with the bar. And then after a few reps here, everything starts to smooth out. I kind of hit my groove a few reps into my second set and really figured out where I was going. I think with this type of a technique, the spreading the bar cue ends up actually being a little bit more beneficial than with my heads off the bench, just because pulling the bar apart tends to create some more stability in through the rear delts and makes it easier for me to find my touch point on the descent. So second set felt pretty smooth. My third set was actually the best, but the last rep I got a little bit loose, tried to do this like half pause not pause thing, and I lost my tension in the upper back, so I only got 7 reps on the third set. Either way, that's a volume PR as well as 8 rep PR for me, since I've not taken this weight for more than 5 reps before. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so already, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. And be sure to check out the gym's website if you're interested in training with us here at Savage at www.savagegym.com.